Alright, hey everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the excursion, the grand excursion. Yeah, well anyway, just left Flagstaff, Arizona, on the way to Petrified Forest National Park. I'm very excited for it because I've never been. I've kind of wanted to because it was featured in one of those Midwich dinosaur videos I watched growing up. So I don't know, I might do a couple driving shots along the way, we'll see. But yeah, can't wait. Hopefully you can't either.
Entrance on the right. In 1/4 mile, arrive at...
And here we are inside the Rainbow Forest Museum. This is the skull of a phytosaur, a crocodile-like predator from the Triassic. And according to the sign, this is the biggest that's ever been found. I mean, this thing just must have been huge. Alright, and if we come over here, we got Placerius. It was kind of a walrus-tusked cow of the Triassic. And just this big ponderous animal that was probably immune to most, probably immune to most predators, save for the biggest ones. And on that subject, here's what's thought to be the top, at least the top land-based predator, Postosuchus. This is one of the pseudosuchians, or false crocodiles, kind of animals related to crocodiles, but not actually crocodiles, who are actually quite predominant of this period of time. Here's another pseudosuchian, an Aedosaur. I know I still have trouble with that name. This particular one is called Dismatasuchus. best known for those huge spines on his neck. You can kind of come over here and kind of see the armor. It's just this big interlocking shield like an armadillo. And it looks like he has a hitchhiker. This is the skull of a metaposaur. These were large amphibians who prowled the waterways of the Triassic. I actually have to stand back quite a bit just to get his skull in, because this thing is huge. It's like 2.5 feet long. I mean, we can kind of come in. You can see just his nose. It's about as long as my hand. So I mean, not only did you have the big phytosaurs to worry about at the water, but you had these things too. There's just some more kind of talking about the various pseudotsuchians who were here on the park during the Triassic. And here's Revueltosaurus, only known from teeth. It was thought to be the earliest ornithischian dinosaur known. But then they started finding more of it. And you can see there's his ankle bone. There's a dinosaur's ankle bone. There's a pseudotsuchian ankle bone. You can see it looks a lot more like the one on the right. And then finally in 2005, they found a little graveyard of these things. They found, among other things, these bony plates, which showed that they were, in fact, pseudotsuchian, not dinosaurian. As if the skull there left any doubt. So, this guy was a little 5-foot herbivorous crocodile-like animal running through the forests, evading all the predators. Here's a specimen kind of showing the laborious process of fossil preparation. This is the back of a skull of a phytosaur, Pseudopelatus, found in 2003 by the park. And these are actually the most common animals found in the park, and I believe in the Chinle group as a whole. Several species known, and this kind of illustrates how the Triassic is called the dawn of the dinosaurs. Well, the dinosaurs didn't come along until the very end of the period, and even then they were not the dominant animals. That would be the pseudotsuchians, like this guy here. Now here's a skeleton of a dinosaur called Chindosaurus that was found here in the park. It is, however, something of a mystery because without the skull or the hips and other significant parts of the skeleton, you can see it's mostly just vertebra and these bits of limb bones. We can't really tell just what kind of dinosaur it is. You can see they kind of, at the moment, have it silhouetted against like a theropod dinosaur. So that's one possibility. Was it like this little, bipedal theropod dinosaur? Or was it a prosauropod, the forerunner to the things like Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus? It's funny, because I grew up looking at that picture, because you remember me saying earlier how this place was featured in one of those dinosaur tapes I watched growing up. And the bit about the Petrified Forest was talking about the discovery of this thing, Chindosaurus, and this was how they originally had reconstructed it. But again, until more is found, we won't know. And then over here is someone you should know, Coelophysis. Here's some leg bones and a pelvis, I believe, are found here in the park. And because, it's funny, Placarius and Coelophysis are featured so heavily in depictions of the Triassic, but their bones are actually pretty rare. In both cases, the animals are known mostly from single quarries. I believe it's southeast of the park here. They found a quarry containing something like 20 placarias in it. And then Coelophysis here is known from Ghost Ranch in New Mexico, where like hundreds of skeletons have been found. So there you go. And just here's some more of the museum. Obviously the newer part. It's got the big fancy mural, all the displays, all the specimens have their collection numbers on them. You know, we focus on the animals, but of course the true star of the park is the plant fossils, but, you know, particularly the petrified wood. I mean, you can see they found like branch logs, and you can't see it on this, but this one I guess is supposed to have insect damage, little insect burrows in it and whatnot. This is a composite metaposaur. That means it's pieced together from parts of different animals, different individuals, because rarely do we find something even this complete. The water was just hell with all the amphibians and yeah, even sharks. Sharks have been found in the riverine sediments of the park. How many of you know what horsetails are? They're plants that like living alongside water. They can be quite annoying because they spread like wildfire. Well, here's a segment from, here's a stalk rather, from one of these giant horsetails that made up the forest here in the late Triassic. And again, you can kind of put my hand up, you can see just how big that is, big this is. Big it is compared to a modern horsetail. That's just unbelievable. And then here's some little critter called Van Clevia. I'm guessing because it's in a display on rivers and it's in a swimming pose, I'm guessing it was aquatic. I don't know, they don't specify whether it was a reptile or amphibian. Looks more like a reptile. And of course, you know, they find everything here, including crap. Fossilized feces called coprolites, whatnot. So yeah, that's the museum. Let's go get out into the park. Alright, here we are in the, you know, appropriately titled Big Log Trail outside the Rainbow Forest Museum. And as you can see, this is why it's called Petrified Forest. There's just wood, petrified wood, everywhere. Now, this is why, part of why the park was created was to preserve all this wood, because if it wasn't protected, you'd just have people coming in, taking all the wood, and then suddenly there wouldn't be a petrified forest. It would just be a desert. So remember, you know, if you're going to collect under permit, and only for, you know, scientific purposes, like if it's going to go to a museum or not, because a fossil doesn't do anyone any good if it's just sitting in your living room. Alright, and here's a interesting little bit. This is a stump, a fallen stump. And right here, you can see that's the remains of a taproot. And anyone who's ever had to remove a tree knows how annoying taproots are, because, you know, you cut all the roots, but you still can't get it because it's got just the one big root right underneath it. Real pain in the ass to get to. Here's just a nice little preview of what's to come. got your classic Badland topography. Petrified wood just out the ass. Also pretty flowers. Here's the scenic overlook. Sure is scenic. Just got all the blocks crumbling down. All right, let's go see some more of the park. All right. Now, how many of you know what a knot is? Besides that really obnoxious thing that makes it hard to cut wood. Well, a knot in a tree is where there used to be a tree branch. So in fact, on this one here, get out of there, you can actually see what's left of the branch as it was coming out. And if you count the knots on a petrified tree and kind of map out where they are, that actually tells you what the tree looked like. You know, paleontology isn't all about the sexy charismatic animals like dinosaurs or saber-toothed cats. It's about all life. Alright, we're on the trail to Agate House, which is just right across the street from the museum. And you know, I think Long Logs is supposed to be part of this loop here as well, so looks like we'll get to see some pretty cool stuff. As you can see, it's as you could imagine, the park is best known for its Badlands topography, like what you see way over there. But I mean, it's not all just barren rock. You can see there's quite a bit of life here. This is, I believe we're still in what's known as the high desert. And basically what that means is that it's a desert, but because it's higher up in elevation, it's just a little bit cooler, just a little bit wetter than your standard desert. And that allows for, you know, as you can see, just this greater spread of vegetation. It looks, you know, mostly dominated by grasses. You have the occasional shrub like that. More petrified wood. I told you, this place is petrified wood out the ass. All right. All right, so here's, again, just more and more petrified wood. You'd think something like that would get old after a while, but it doesn't, because, as you can see, each has its own unique shape, colors, textures. Alright, just, you can see, just contrasts so sharply with the bleak, barren look of the Badlands style topography. Alright, well, there's Agate House, so we're almost there. Alright, here we are at Agate House. Archaeologists think this was built between 1050 and 1300 AD, so quite a long time ago. They think because of its small size and also lack of the ceremonial structure known as a kiva, that it was occupied only briefly. You know, they weren't here to stay, and it's been partially reconstructed. You know, most of the time you find these ruins, you find just the foundations and the bottoms of the walls. And archaeologists aren't so sure about why it's made out of agate. Not agate. Petrified wood, although petrified wood basically is agate. So yeah, archaeologists just aren't sure about why this structure is made out of petrified wood. Yeah, it's the most common stone-like material around, but as we'll hopefully see later, you know, the natives in this region here, petrified wood and mortar. So, I mean, this is just one of those mysteries we may never crack. You know, especially since the dearth of artifacts found here. You see that's another reason why they think this wasn't occupied for very long, is because little cultural material was actually found. And I mean, if we had more, I mean, evidence of anything really, I mean, if we had skeletal remains, food remains, tools, ceremonial objects, all that sort of thing, you know, we might be able to figure out this house's purpose, you know, again, why it was built out of petrified wood. Yeah, archaeology can be quite frustrating like that at times. Of course, we could just relegate this to the, look at that little fire pit made out of petrified wood. But, you know, it would probably get relegated to ceremonial use, which is the great archaeological pigeonhole. If we can't figure out what something was used for, we just say it had some kind of ceremonial function. Yeah, a bit of a cop-out, but again, in the absence of evidence, what can you do? But who knows? Maybe the fact that this was occupied so shortly is a sign that I'm probably going to be doing that a lot on this trip because it's so busy. But perhaps the reason that that it was built out of petrified wood may be tied to the, you know, suspected short occupancy. Maybe they just didn't have the time or the manpower. I mean, again, because it's small, so there couldn't have been that many people. So maybe because of time or not enough people or whatnot, rather than, you know, traveling, you know, to find the rocks that were the best for making housing blocks, they opted instead to just use what was at hand, and that's the petrified wood. Yeah, again, I know a lot of people out there don't consider archaeology a real science, you know, but if you can, you know, get beyond biases, racial ideas, and just all that other crap, and if you just stick with the raw evidence, you can actually do quite a bit. All right, onward. All right, here we are on the Long Logs Trail. As you see, still surrounded by petrified wood. But these pieces seem to be bigger and more intact than what we were seeing. I mean, so on the way to Agate House, the gravel was just, it was all petrified wood fragments. But here, because like there's a big piece, there's some more big pieces right there. Go, look at the texture on that one. Cool. And then over there, you can see there's a pretty long one. It was broken up in 4 sections, tumbling down the hill. Yep. Now here's an especially long one. Let's see. Keep going, and keep going, and there's the end. I mean, this thing's got to be at least 50 feet. You know, that's why they call it Trail of Long Logs, because, you know, there's another long one right there. Because according to the little trail guide back at the visitor center, there's supposedly like 113 and 147 foot logs out here at Long Logs, and it shows you how big these trees get. And because scientists think, based on measurements they've taken of sections of wood and stumps and whatnot, that these conifer trees were growing up to 200 feet tall. And yeah, those are big ass trees. I mean, you have to go up to the Pacific Northwest to find trees that big, you know. Douglas fir, cedars, and of course redwoods. But of course none of those were around yet. This was kind of, I think this was meant the, not just the dawn of the dinosaurs, but I think this was the dawn of the conifers as well. But don't quote me on that, as I'm not a plant guy.